get the memo. The meeting's here.
Ho, ho, ho.
My plane got canceled.
Exit full screen is what I want to do because I have to get the volume. And I
So-
come down here.
Bob, the protocol is who do you know best in the club? Are you,
Probably one of two people, Jim Dodmead, or and I don't know if Jim is on today or not,
not yet?
and Bob Schreiner.
Okay.
I got to go back.
Well, I'm the president, but I don't know much about. I mean, we've never met, so I guess I'll just the topic of the conversation is foundation, right?
Yes.
So
You can
I'll
send
just
me bad
Polio,
things.
isn't it?
and you can talk. It's not.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, we'll give everybody a couple minutes. We're still 3 minutes, and we'll start a couple minutes in.
Bottom
Hey,
left.
Jay.
Hello, how's everybody tonight?
Hi, Keith. Good, good.
I just came back from Long Island yesterday, so.
Tom, it looks like you've got a mouse in your picture. Oh, that's Jerry.
It's a yellow mouse.
And John, oh gee. Poor Tom.
Oh, the third.
Doesn't it look like Triple Trouble?
You're muted, Tom. We can't hear you.
He's got to unmute himself.
Yeah.
Hear you.
Now we're back. Okay, we're resuming attempting to be normal.
Speak for yourself.
Just how do you define normal?
Abnormal equals normal.
Abby normal.
Oh, and Brian, you are not in the car this time?
Don't blame us.
I'm on the car. No, I'm done with that night shift.
I'm only kidding.
No, it's good. I'm really glad to be done with that night shift.
Hi, Amanda. She's
And Amanda's in the car.
I'm going to do my best not to swear.
I'm a commander.
Why?
Commander.
What's the red thing on your ceiling?
Well, it looks like a sunset on the screen, but it's actually a light bouncing off a down portion of the ceiling.
She's talking to somebody else.
It may also be my sunshade in the Jeep.
There it is.
Oh, you got your tops off.
No, it's on, but this one stays on no matter if I've got the ladies here.
Whoa. No bicycles allowed. David even realized he's got a bicycle in front of us motorcyclists? David, check your shirt up. David, you're muted.
There. Oh,
MESA shirt, one of our MESA shirts, Medical Equipment Supplies Abroad, and where we collect used but usable medical and other equipment, send it to third world countries. Pretty big program in our district.
nice logo.
I can make a presentation on it sometime.
It still needs a motorcycle.
Hang on, somebody's at our front door.
Change shirts. It's me. Don't worry about it. I'm only.
Looks like you have a good time over there, right?
Oh, yeah. You know, it's different coming to a Rotary meeting at 5 o'clock instead of 7.
Yeah, me 6 o'clock.
That's right. You're in Texas, and are you in Colorado, Jerry? Wow.
Yeah, we're over at Tom's place in Colorado. So, yep, I got to turn around and go home, and John's heading to see Debbie Vance and maybe Linda before he gets to come home.
Tomorrow we're headed to Mesa Verde.
Hey, John, do you have a time frame of when you're going to be up this way?
I'll send you an email.
Okay.
I haven't memorized it. It's almost a month-long trip.
Okay. So we might go to Idaho. I don't know when, but we've got a celebration of life coming up too. So that may.
You're gonna wait and make sure that's the day he's gonna be around.
Yeah. No, there's a celebration of life that's coming in there somewhere, so we may not go, but we'll see.
In Idaho in the next few days.
Huh?
I will be up in Idaho in the next few days.
It won't be that quick.
And on the 17th, the RI president is up in BC somewhere at a meet and greet.
Probably Vancouver.
No, it's not Vancouver. It's another
Really?
town. Probably a suburb of Vancouver.
It's probably in District 50. That's usually where they come. I can find out if you want.
I saw it on Facebook, but I could look it up. If it's on Facebook, it must be true.
Of course. Everything's true on Facebook.
What Lincoln said.
Hey, Brian, do we got a minute or two before Bob starts?
Yeah, I think, Bob, how long's your talk?
Well, that depends on how long you want me to talk.
We can let her go for a while. Will you give us a couple minutes to talk real quick?
Oh, please, do.
All right.
Linda, do you have the package that I had sent to you from the end of the year?
Yeah, but it's 2.5 hours north of here.
Oh, well, then we'll delay.
Sorry. I didn't think to pack that up this morning.
We'll delay. We'll delay.
What's the new president's name?
Mark Maloney, I think.
Oh, okay. This is something different.
I'm done then, Brian.
Okay. All right. Well, then, with no further ado, I'll introduce Bob, and he's on his iPhone, and I don't know Bob personally, but he's going to talk to us about Rotary Foundation. I got a funny little story real quick about Foundation. Today I went to make a donation in the name of a friend of mine that was a Rotarian that passed away. And so we went through the cart, we made our donation, printed out the thing, and it said that, donation and on behalf of your, Brian Green, donation on behalf of Brian Green, deceased. And it took me back for a second there. I was like, wait a minute, I'm not dead. And so apparently what had happened was when you go to that page where you put your credit card in, I used the autofill from my credit card from my password manager, and it filled my name in instead of the deceased name after you'd already typed it in, and so it was a little odd. So I had to send an email off to Rotary about that. But that's my foundation story for the day. Anyway, Bob, take it away.
All right. Well, those of you who don't know me, I'll introduce myself a little bit. I've got 1.3 million miles on motorcycles.
Oh my gosh.
I've accomplished a number of world records on motorcycles. In fact, I think one of my records was a few years ago. I spoke at the district conference in Dillard, Georgia, and I made the run in there the final day, the final 23 hours and 45 minutes, covered 1,834 miles.
Wow.
So
In one day?
So that's the kind of riding I do. I've completed 3 iron butt rallies. Those of you who don't know what that is, That's an 11,000 mile in 11-day scavenger hunt on steroids. And so I've completed 3 of those. I didn't complete my 4th one because I lost my photos in my camera, but still very proud to have done that. I have, until this year, the last 10 years, I've put on something called the No Polio Rally, which is a fundraiser for Polio Plus here in California. I rode back with your group, the IFMR group, to New Orleans when the international convention was there. Met up with the large contingency of the group in Amarillo, Texas, and rode in from there. I caught up with them overnight. And so to tell you, that's the kind of motorcycle riding that I do. I had polio when I was 9 months old. I spent the next 3 years in an iron lung at the Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was diagnosed with something called post-polio syndrome at about 35 years ago. And I had 3 neurologists. All 3 diagnosed me with the same symptoms and the same diagnosis. They said I had 2 productive years and I would be flat on my back. If I was lucky, I might be in a wheelchair. Well, I've worn leg braces and used crutches since I contracted polio. So the idea of being in a wheelchair is not very acceptable for me. So I did the logical thing when you get told you have 2 productive years left. I went out and bought a motorcycle. And I've been riding ever since. I ride specifically for polio eradication to raise publicity and money for Polio Plus. My first ride was 48 state capitals, the contiguous state capitals. I did that in 28 days. We called it the 4830. And the important thing about that was, at that time, this was back in 1998, Rotary had been getting very little publicity for anything that we were doing. And here we're attempting the largest humanitarian project ever attempted by a private service organization, and that was the worldwide eradication of polio. And yet we were getting very little publicity. And I've always said, and by the way, I've been in Rotary since 1970. This next year makes my 50th year with perfect attendance. So my thought has always been that we as Rotarians, we have the obligation to get our own publicity. It shouldn't be up to the parent organization. And so this ride that I did to the 50 state capitals, we ended up getting at every capital major coverage. We got all the networks, all the local papers, all the news coverage. It was incredible. And in fact, that where I first heard of Bob Schreiner was he was then, I believe, the president of the Rotary Club in Washington, D.C. And he wanted me to come speak to the Rotary Club in Washington, D.C. And I told him I was very, very sorry, but I couldn't interrupt my schedule. However, I could be at the U.S. Capitol if he would be willing to get the Washington Post, I believe it was, to come do an article. And he informed me that they didn't do that sort of thing. The Washington Post didn't write articles about Rotary. And I said, well, give it a try. So he called me at where I was staying the night at about 11 o'clock that night. And he said, can you be at the Capitol at some steps west or north or something tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And I said, yes, I can. So I was, and we did a full feature story on this crazy guy that was doing what was considered impossible. And so the whole thing just snowballed. We got a lot of coverage. It was free. It didn't cost Rotary anything. And that kind of put me into a place where I felt this is something that I need to continue doing. The only thing was, every time I did a major ride like that, I came back with a little more pain, a little more weakness, and which is one of the symptoms of post-polio syndrome. And so I decided maybe I should give up the long riding. And I told my wife, Patty, I said, I think what I'm going to do is go on a national immunization day and see what this is all about. So I went to Ghana with a group, 92 of us from all over North America. And we put a team together. We went over and put together 8,000 volunteers. We immunized 18 million children in 3 days. And during that time, I was out in a village giving those 2 magic drops to an 8-month-old baby girl, holding her in my arms. And I felt a tugging of my pant leg, and there was this about 12-year-old boy who looked up at me with a big smile, and he said, "Thank you, mister, for saving my baby sister so she doesn't get what I've got." Well, I have to tell you, while I was waiting for my eyes to clear up, I was thinking, how could I possibly be so selfish as to say, I think I'll quit riding because of a little discomfort. So I made a pledge to myself, I'm going to keep riding, and I'm going to keep talking, and I'm going to keep spreading the word. And I'm going to keep raising the money that it takes to eradicate this disease. I'm going to be part of it. And I'm encouraging everybody I see, and I give challenges to Rotary groups when I speak to them, is that it's not just up to us to open our wallets and our checkbooks. It's up to us to talk to our neighbors and our friends and get their buy-in, get them to help, because it's everybody's benefit. That's who this is going to. It's not just going to Rotary. So I've been very adamant about that. One of the things a lot of people ask me, how do you ride a motorcycle? And you can't, you're on crutches and all that. And I tell them, well, I review it kind of like when Stevie Wonder and Tiger Woods first met. And Stevie Wonder said to Tiger, someday we ought to play golf. Tiger said to Stevie, well, you can't play golf, you're blind. And Stevie said, well, of course I play golf. And Tiger said, well, how do you do that? And he said, well, it's real simple. I have my caddy walk down the fairway, and when he gets to a certain length of distance away, he yells at me, and I drive the ball in the direction of his voice. Tiger said, well, that's pretty good, but what about when you get on the green? And he said, oh, that's even easier. I have my caddy put his face right down by the cup, and he talks to me, and I putt in the direction of his voice. So Tiger said, well, that's really cool. Why don't we play golf? And Stevie said, well, it's not that easy. I'm so tired of everybody looking at me and thinking that I can't do something. And so the only way I'll play golf is for money. Well, Tiger said, how much money? And Stevie said, well, I wouldn't play for less than $10,000 per hole. And Tiger, with a little bit of a smile, he said, well, okay, when do you want to play? And Stevie said, well, any night next week is fine with me. So I call that leveling the playing field. And that's what I do, and what I've done my whole life is I've leveled the playing field and made things work for me. Can everybody hear me? I'm seeing one picture on my screen. Hello?
Yep, we can all hear you. I know it's a little disconcerting when you don't hear anybody when you're talking.
Okay, well, no, it's not that. It's that I'm just seeing somebody's picture, and I don't know who it is on the full screen, but it's not me. So, okay, so we'll continue.
If you swipe on your screen, you should be able to see more of us. It'll come up as a different screen.
Oh,
Yeah. Unfortunately, on mute, you
oh,
don't get any giggling or anything.
look at there. I did. Okay, that's very cool. Okay, so it again, not everybody knows the story of Polio Plus, but in 1983, Rotary decided we were going to work with the World Health Organization and the CDC and basically the United Nations, and we were going to help them eradicate worldwide polio. We promised them that we would raise $120 million in 2 years. So in 1987, we went back to the UN and we said, you know, we feel like we should have a better say and a bigger say in this program because after all, we should be the major players. And they said, well, why should we talk to you? You're just a service club. Well, we said, yeah, we are a service club. We're the oldest, the largest, and the most prestigious service club. And we promised you that we would do certain things. One of the things that we can do is we can open doors into countries that you can't go into, but we can make that happen. We can make wars stop momentarily for a period of time so we can go in and administer the vaccines. But more importantly, we promised you that we would give you $120 million towards this program. And what we have is $247 million to put on the table. Well, at that point, the people at the World Health and the UN said, maybe we need to rethink our position. So we now have 2 full-time people at the United Nations that represent Rotary. And I think that's something really to be proud of. The fact that we're the only service club that has that kind of representation is certainly a feather in our cap. And we will continue to do that as long as we continue to work towards worldwide eradication of polio. When I was a kid, I grew up in, I was born in Texas. I spent the first 6 years of my life in Pennsylvania. And then from then on, I was in California. So my father, he was a piano tuner, as am I. And he was on a board of directors that met once a month in San Francisco. So we would go down to a restaurant on Fisherman's Wharf called Tarantino's for dinner. And outside the door, was a crawler, a real crawler. This person was never going to walk. He had polio. He had a little cart about 2.5 feet square and had 4 casters on it. And he pushed himself out every morning to the front of the restaurant. He had a coffee can, a 2-pound coffee can, and he had taped a note to it that said pencils, 2 for 25 cents. Well, I always, when we went there for dinner, I always would go over and drop a quarter in his can, but I never took any pencils because I didn't need any. Well, after about 4 or 5 years of this, the tag had since dropped off the can and, it was no longer readable, but everybody knew who the pencil guy was and they knew why he was there, and he continued selling his pencils. So this one day I went over and I dropped my quarter in his can and turned to go away, and he called me back. He said, "Kid, I want to talk to you. I want to tell you something." So I went back and I said, "Yeah, you're wondering why I always put a quarter in your can, but I never take any pencils." And he said, "No, I wanted you to know that I raised the price to 35 cents. Well, that's what happened with the polio vaccine. When we first started this program, it cost 9 cents. Now it costs about 70 cents. And I always say, but for 70 cents, would you deny that 12-year-old boy his chance to be saving his baby sister? And I know none of us would. We would all say, yes, heck yes, I would raise the money, which is what we're up to. That's what we're doing. We have health workers in Afghanistan and Pakistan who are fighting our war that we're financing. They're our soldiers on the ground. They're the feet out there that are giving the vaccine to these kids, putting their lives at risk, getting killed by Al Qaeda and the Taliban, but they're still willing to do this because they know what the ultimate outcome will be, and that is the eradication of the most feared disease on the planet 50 years ago. It now still is the most feared disease in these countries where it's endemic. The good news is that we've gone from 350,000 cases a year to 59 cases that we've had this year worldwide. The good news is also that in Nigeria, where we had major outbreaks and we had an awful time, we managed to eradicate the disease for at least the last 30 months. And in 6 months, we will be certified, Nigeria will be certified polio-free. India was certified polio-free. They got tired of having the disease and they just said, okay, we're going to accomplish this goal. And they did. They've been certified polio-free for about 6 years now. So the thing that we're doing is so incredible when you look at it. And I know there's probably few, if any, people other than myself in this group that have been on a National Immunization Day. But those of you who have, you know how important this is. We are huge players on the world stage for this sort of activity. 4 years ago, after I finished my very first Iron Butt rally in 1999, I had been asked if I would write my biography. And I said, I of course automatically said, well, this is going to be a fundraiser for Polio Plus. How much money will we make from the sales of your books if I write it? And they said, well, you would get about 90 cents per book, and we'll give you a $10,000 advance, which will be paid back off the sale of the books. I said, well, that's not appropriate, and no, I won't do it. So I turned it down. I turned it down again in 2001 when I ran my second Iron Butt rally, and I turned it down again in 2005 after my third Iron Butt rally. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I have a friend who is a fellow motorcyclist. She's also a published author. And I went to Linda and I said, here's what I want to do. I want to write my biography, but I'm not the writer. I will narrate it. I would like you to write it. And there will be no money in it for you. You will never, ever get paid a dime. I thought she'd laugh at me. Instead, she said, fine, I'll do it. So for the next 2 years, she lives 1,000 miles or 850 miles away from me, but we would communicate. She would fly here. I would ride my motorcycle there. She would ride her motorcycle here. We would email, we'd text, whatever it took. And we got the book finished. The title of the book is From Iron Lung to Iron Butt. And there is a copy, a picture of it. It's a fun read. It's a good read. And all the proceeds go to Polio Plus. The hard cost of the book is $5. I sell it for $20 plus shipping. And like I say, I send the balance, everything left over, I send in to Polio Plus, which, by the way, gets matched from my district before it goes to Rotary, where the World Fund doubles and matches it. Then the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation triples it. So you can do the math and see this is an incredible fundraiser. And it's something that we all can get on board with, and it's not going to break the bank. By the way, I get some questions sometimes. what are you riding? I ride a BMW with a sidecar. BMW has supplied me with 2 motorcycles, and so that's what I ride. I've ridden all over Australia. I've ridden to all the Canadian provincial capitals. I even rode in 2005. Instead of the 4830, I did the 5030, and we shipped the bike to Juneau and to Honolulu so that we could accomplish riding the motorcycle to all 50 state capitals. I took a Centennial rotary bell with me that time and had it photographed at every one of the state capitals in the nation. Funny thing, in Australia, I actually led a team around. I had 3 Rotary friends, one from Maine and one from Reno, and then a local person here from Sacramento. And we went to Australia, rode around the entire perimeter, spoke, I don't know, it had to be 100 times at least to Rotary clubs. And we were coming down from the Northern Territories in the outback, and we decided to open up the bikes and see how fast they would go because there is no speed limit there. So we were cruising along at, shall we say, highly excessive speeds. And I saw over the horizon what looked like it possibly could have been a police officer. So I slowed down. And my other 3 guys, they just kept right on going. And of course, they got lit up and pulled over. Well, we had been being covered every other day by the national television in Australia. They would do a blurb on what we were, where we were, and what we were up to. So I pulled up. It took me about 2 minutes to catch up to these guys. And of course, they had their IDs out, their passports, and the cop was talking to them. And I said, "You know what we're up to?" And he said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "I will be making my donation right here." But he said, "I wanted to tell you that the speed limit is 110 kilometers, which is 62 miles an hour." And I said, "Well, but we're in the Northern Territory." He said, "No, you came back into Western Australia about 20 kilometers ago." And so he said, "But I'm not going to write you a ticket." And he gave us 50 Australian dollars, and which we turned in. But what was funny about it was my guy from Maine, I don't know if it's a New England thing or not, but he said, "Well, I don't know why you bothered to pull us over if you knew who we were." He said, "If we weren't being unsafe, we could see anything around us as far as you can see." And he said, "Well, mate, you didn't see me now, did you?" So we had a interesting time on that one. That was a good trip. It was a very good ride. We raised a lot of money. We got a lot of opportunity to talk to Rotary clubs. And I'm going to open it up for some questions, if anybody has any, because sometimes there's people want to know things, and I don't know what you want to know. So go ahead.
Bob, if you buy your book off of Amazon, it's available in paperback. Does Polio make money off that, off Amazon?
No, we don't.
Okay.
We
can buy
if you buy it from Amazon, that's a separate thing entirely, and they're looking at $1.11. So I don't even want to handle the paperwork on that.
Bob, can you send me an email with your whatever website you want to send us to buy this book so that I can keep it going in our newsletter?
Sure. In fact, PayPal is probably the best way to do it. And that would be just my email address, which, wait a minute, I need to give somebody the proper email address. The one for PayPal is R as in Robert, P as in Paul, Mutchler, Mutchler at AOL.com. And it cost me about, I think the latest shipping charge was $5.80. So I sell the book. I sell the book for 20 plus the shipping charge.
Bob, would you say that email again, please?
Yes. R is in Robert. P is in Paul. Mutchler, Mutchler at AOL.com.
Brian, would you send an email to the club about that?
I will. It'll go in the next newsletter.
Thank you much.
It's a good read. It's fun. It's not only is it my biography, but it's also the history of polio. It's about Rotary's involvement with Polio Plus, and it's even got a few pictures for those of you who can't read.
It was a great book, Bob. I wanted to say thank you. That was one of my inspirations for joining Rotary at all.
Oh, well, thank you. I was going to say for those of you from West Virginia, but I won't do that.
So, Bob.
Yes.
You've covered many miles on a great motorcycle there. What about future plans?
Right now, I'm looking to find a Honda 50. I had one with a sidecar, and somebody broke into my building and stole it.
Oh.
My plan, and I've been working with American Honda. There's a woman who won the Iron Butt Rally this year, a gal named Wendy Crockett. And Wendy and I have been collaborating over the last year and a half to borrow American Honda's test track in Southern California. She would ride the new Honda 50, and I would ride the old one, my 1960.
Wow.
And do 1,000 miles in 24 hours.
Wow.
Which would be a world record. It also would demonstrate what these bikes are capable of doing.
Sure.
Nice.
On a 50.
Yep.
God bless you.
So that's my next goal. What I really wanted to do was do 50 saddle sores, what they call saddle sore 1,000 miles in 24 hours in all 50 states of the U.S. consecutively, one day at a time. But it was going to take about $300,000 to make that happen, and that wasn't going to happen.
Wow.
So, but yeah, I'm still doing some long miles. I'm slowing down a lot. I don't go up or down stairs anymore. But I'm once I get on the bike, I can ride.
Good for you.
Bob, when's your next no polio ride? Are you doing another this fall?
I was planning on it, and then last year we only had 6 riders. And while we raised quite a bit of money, it was putting the onus on those 6 riders, and I didn't want to do that. So this year I decided to put it off. If we do anything, it'll be a ride to eat. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but if we do that, and I do a barbecue at my house, and I can seat up to 60 people. So we may end up doing that. But I'm pretty sure we'll do a no polio rally next year.
Okay.
The other thing
prospective date for the ride to eat?
Looking at the end of September or the first part of October. Weather's still very good here up through November. So.
Where are you living, Bob?
I live just outside of Sacramento, California, in Folsom.
Okay.
Where the prison is. but I don't live in the prison anymore.
Yeah, I went on Bob's last ride, so I've been up to the place. You know, I'll put this off route. I have 2 running motorcycles. If somebody wants to fly out for the ride to eat, I can put that person up on a motorcycle. I should be around at that time.
Oh, cool.
Would you like to come to the polio ride I organize every year in the springtime to Texas?
Yeah.
I can send you an invitation and you can stay with us if you like.
I'd love it. That
Yeah.
sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And one other thing that I'm doing to raise some money, we have an iron butt rider, iron butt rally finisher. He's ridden 7 iron butt rallies. His name is Tom Loftus. Tom was a very good friend and a very staunch supporter of Polio Plus. He would write every year. He would write $1,000 check and just hand it to me. And he wasn't a Rotarian. He just believed in what we're doing. So Tom contracted terminal cancer several years ago, and it gradually got worse and worse, and he died this January of this year. Tom put into, and by the way, he's another person with over 1 million miles on motorcycles. He had a stable of ST 1300s, Honda, Hondas. He willed one to me, and I'm going to be auctioning it off, or excuse me, raffling it off. I'm going to sell tickets for $50 a piece. This will be the 3rd motorcycle we've raffled off. And with the first 2 bikes, we raised $5,000 each. I know this bike is actually worth more, but if we raised $5,000 with it, I'd be happy.
Outstanding.
You said make sure we get the details for the raffle, Bob, because being fairly local, I'd be interested in that. I'm on an ST 1300 now, just not as kitted out for touring.
I have 2 now. I have an ST 1300 in my garage that is both of these bikes are rally ready, because like I say, Tom rode long distances. He would ride to Virginia and back from San Diego or Washington. He had 2 homes, but once a week he would ride to Virginia and back.
What?
He had a business in Virginia.
Bob, will you have a way to sell the tickets for the raffle online?
I will try to set up a site where that can be done. I did have a website. It was being hosted by the Reno Rotary Club, and unfortunately, they just suddenly out of the blue said they weren't doing it anymore. So we lost it.
Well,
but I have my own personal website for my business, and I think what I'll try to do is offshoot it, from that.
Okay. Well, if you have a way to take the purchases online for the tickets, then I'd be happy to put I'd be happy to dedicate a story on our Club Runner page to you for sure.
Okay. Well, I can also do PayPal. So I actually have a bank account specifically designated for Polio Plus. So we can do that. Anything else?
Bob, what is your business?
I tune pianos and restore pianos. People ship me pianos from all over the world for restoration work. I'm a 4th generation piano technician. Nice. And I also play in a rock and roll band.
Bob, do you think there's a chance of doing another Polio Plus ride Because when we did that one to New Orleans, we handed a check over to RI president for $50,000.
That's
Now,
correct. That's
if
right.
if we did another Polio Plus ride, we could probably double that.
I think that would be awesome, and I'd love to be part of that. I don't know if you remember, were you there in Amarillo, or where did you come in from?
Well, I came in from Colorado, but that was very memorable to go from Baton Rouge all the way to downtown New Orleans. I think that was 84 miles, and every single freeway exit was blocked for Rotary. And when we got downtown, the TVs, the newspapers, the radio reporters were all out there to cover us. And it was an amazingly good event, not just for the motorcycling Rotarians IFMR that went to it, but just for the overall experience and publicity and the funds raised.
In 3 years, the International Convention will be in Houston in 3 years. It's in Honolulu next year, Taipei the following year, in Houston. Maybe we could do something in Houston.
Well, there's plenty of time to put something like that together, and I think it'd be a great idea. I've always said that the media, even though, if it's bad news, they'll print it. But I've also found that if it's good news, if it's good enough, they will be there. My very first stop when I did the 4830 ride, my host called I think it was the NBC affiliate there, and said, "Your number one cameraman is here. Why don't you send him out to do some video work?" And they said, "Well, if you get a real story, give us a call." Well, by the time I was to my fifth capital, which was Cheyenne, Wyoming, they had that cameraman there to do a 1.5 hour documentary. So we know that the publicity, we can get it. They just want a good message.
Bob, I was lucky enough to be on one of Bob's rides when we met up with you down south. I don't remember where, but as I remember, you were going to be leaving there to go to, I believe it was Atlanta, to get a tire. So that makes me wonder, how do you handle emergencies on the road?
That's the other thing. I have found out that the motorcycle community, if there are several websites out there, and including what LD Rider is one, but I have found that if I have a problem, and I've had these happen, mostly tire problems, but some mechanical issues, and whenever I have that happen, I've always been able to get on my phone, go online, and look for help, and I've always gotten it.
The other thing that may be missed in your presentation is that you never got off your motorcycle from California to wherever that was down in our neck of the woods, which I think is pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, because I left it, I think I left, it was like 8 o'clock, 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I got 60 miles down the road and realized that I had left my wallet at home. I had to turn around, go back and get it, and then left. And by then I was looking at 1,400 miles to get to Amarillo. But I got to Amarillo and met all you guys that next afternoon. So now I was tired, and I forget who it was that went somewhere and brought me food. I was already in bed. They brought me food because I hadn't eaten since I left Folsom, and for which I will forever be grateful.
Pretty
But,
cool.
yeah, we had an interesting time. Anything else?
So, Bob, what drew you to Rotary in 1970?
Um, well, I joined up with I went to work in a music store. They needed a piano player, and they said they wanted to make me an honorary member. And after about 2 months, I found out what Rotary was about. I saw Rotary in action. And because I was making every meeting, I was playing the piano for their songs. And I told my then sponsor, I said, if I can't be a regular full member, you're not going to see me again. I'm not coming back. And so I was sponsored in within a month. And it's, you know, my love of the Rotary Foundation, for example, I got to see where it is my money actually goes. And when you do that, when you realize that, hey, they're taking our money, your money, my money, and they're putting it away for 3 years. And at the end of that 3 years, they're taking it out and spending the money on the things that we wanted them to spend it on, which is betterment, you know, making the world a better place. Half that money comes back to our district to be used in local grants. So yeah, the reason I joined in 1970 was the same reason, I guess, that I would join today.
And I can't read your shirt, but what district are you in?
5180.
So I'll be coming to your district for your conference at the end of October.
Oh, excellent.
I joined Rotary in 5180, Bob.
Really?
Yeah, Carson City Sunset.
Well, that was 5190.
Oh, you're right. You're right. 5190. Yep. Yeah, you're right.
I do a lot of speaking around for district conferences. Actually, that's what I was doing in Dillard, Georgia, when I did that 1,800 plus mile ride. But yeah, I do an awful lot of that, and I enjoy district conferences. I think they're great. They're a lot of fun, and I enjoy the international conventions because you meet these people from all over the world, and you get to talk with them about what their clubs are doing, what their districts are doing, and these projects. And it's like, yeah, we could do that. So there we are.
There it is.
I wonder if someone can make his presentation possible, maybe in a format that could be used at a local Rotary club. Being a full member of a regular club, it might be fun to try to share this with our club. And if we had an abridged version or something, that would be great.
The only thing that I have now is one I did at a Pets up in Seattle, and it's 45 minutes long, so I don't think that would work. I'm trying to think. I know there's things on YouTube, but I don't know whether they would suffice. There is a song that a friend of mine and I wrote that's called "It's Called Polio," and that was getting some airtime in Europe, a lot of it, which was surprising. But it's a fun song. It's my band that I play in, and the words were written by a chef, a restaurateur, and then I put together the music. And you can find that on YouTube under my name, Rotary Polio Plus, and It's Called Polio. I don't know how many of those you'd have to put in, but it's there.
Yeah, we actually do publish all of these on YouTube, but I'm talking of being able to take this and shorten it a bit so that it would fit a lot of the club's formats.
Yeah, they need about 20 minutes,
Right.
which I think is what we did today without the
No
questions.
longer.
I mean, without the questions.
Right.
So.
Do we have anybody else? Questions?
Very inspirational.
Yeah, outstanding.
Well, thank you.
Very good.
Great work that you're doing, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you. Very informative.
So when we go to get this book from you, we go to PayPal. We just write our address to have it sent in the PayPal thing and say book, or how does it work?
You can do that. The other thing you could do is go ahead and do the PayPal payment, and then wait a minute. Yeah, do the PayPal payment. Send me an email, because that payment to PayPal is also one of my email addresses.
Okay.
So you can send me an email with your information, and I'll put a book in the mail to you.
So the total for the book and shipping is $25.80. Is that right?
That's correct. And you will be immunizing. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to, I haven't done the math, but it seems to me 15, 30, 60, 180, it'll immunize about 230 children because of all the matches. That's a good bang for your buck.
Yeah, it is.
So just so I'm clear, Bob, are you getting a 1-for-1 match from your district?
Yes. 1-for-1 from my district, and then a 1-for-1 from the World Bank. Yeah, the World Bank.
The World Fund, yeah.
World Fund, and then a 2-for-1 from the Gates
From
Foundation.
Gates.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So it's pretty good. And I just found out about the World Fund. I thought it was just 1-for-1 from our district and a 2-for-1 from Gates. And I was corrected.
Okay, well, is there anything else? Do we have any other announcements or anything else going on?
I've got a question to Scott. Are you still on?
Yes, I am.
This is Keith. Are you going to make the SMSA conference in Grand Rapids this year?
What's the dates?
September 11 through the 15th, I think.
I can't. I'll be in Germany.
All right. Well, because I'm planning on riding up to Grand Rapids.
Fun. Have a great time.
Oh, thank you.
Grand Rapids. I know a couple people that live pretty close to there.
Pretty darn close.
Nobody important, by the way.
Yeah. Well, Judy's pretty important.
I'll give you that. Ute, I have a question for you. The spring polio ride, do you have the dates for that?
It's a weekend before our trip in the hill country. It's the 21st of March.
1st of March. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So if you want to come a little bit earlier for the hill country trip, you can join the polio ride as well.
I think the dates are already posted on the IFMR website.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Well, how about if we get Yellow Jerry there to give us the four-way test?
How do you turn off this mute?
Yeah, right. Too late.
All right, everybody's mute off. Let's see if we can max out this internet here, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
The 5-way test of the things we think Sarah did first.
5-way.
Is it the truth?
Second,
Fair to all
Is it
concerned.
fair to all concerned?
Goodwill and better friendships.
Build goodwill and better friendships.
Beneficial.
fourth, beneficial to all.
Beneficial to all concerned.
Fifth, it needs to be planned out.
Be fun.
Oh, brother.
What happened there?
You leave it up to a past district governor or two, we could screw it all up.
Hey, one more thing before we leave. Thanks to Terry. He invited me to a Rotary meeting. Terry, what was that called? The meeting last night.
Well, our district governor was hosting an AG meeting for 3 areas. So he was just giving a heads up of the upcoming year to the president-elects, and the assistant governors.
It was extremely informative. I won't bore you all with it. When the board gets together again, I've got some things I want to throw out. Thanks again.
Yeah,
Really
bro.
enjoyed it.
So Harold, you had a chance to meet Johnny, huh?
Yes. We talked about you too, by the way.
Oh no, don't do that.
Oh, we
Yeah,
did.
we did
Oh, we
discuss
did.
you. Your name came up in conversation.
Oh
Several.
no, that's not good.
No, in a good way.
No, if Johnny's concerned, it's not good.
It had something to do with 10 million meals.
Oh, that was good.
He made you look good. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Have a good week, everyone.
All right.
All right.
Oh,
Have a great one. See you next week.
before you go, Terry, I don't know if you saw your email about the vote that we have.
Yeah, I just replied.
Okay, thank you very much.
I didn't know I was a holdup, sorry.
No, that's all right.
And I have